Hello, I'm Joel Hargis with the Florida Aviation Network. We're here at Sun and Fun 2023, and it is a beautiful week. If you have not been out here and you're anywhere close, come, because the weather is crazy good. You know, we're midday Saturday for those of you watching live, but it's still not too late to come because tonight is the night air show. And, you know, flying aerobatics at night is one thing, flying it with, you know, pyrotechnics on your airplane is quite another. And so they're going to do that tonight. And if you've never seen one of those, it's definitely worth the trip. So I am really excited to be talking right now with Tyler Feed Davies. And so Feed is not his middle name. Feed is his call sign.
That's correct.
And I understand you were a Navy pilot.
I was. Yep. Flew F-18s in the Navy.
Flew F-18 Hornets in the Navy.
Correct.
So before we go any farther, I got to ask, I always ask every military pilot, how'd you get your call sign?
So Feed is actually short for feed bag because I'm a man that likes to eat a lot of food. So the way that it worked is, you know, I was prior enlisted. So I had a lot of friends on the ship at the time when I joined my squadron, and helped a guy that was going through his enlisted life, take a couple years off the clock. Here we are now. I'm an officer. I see him in the wardroom. He used to make me exceptional food every time I'd go fly. So some people take classified material in their flight bag. I took food in my flight bag because I'm like, if I'm going to go down today, I'm going to at least have a full stomach. So he would always make quality food for me, and people just started to figure it out. If they go fly with Tyler, they're going to have some food in the cockpit.
And so, yeah, and it's your mates that you fly with that name you. You don't
Correct.
get to pick it.
Yeah, we have nothing to do with it. Well, we have everything to do with it, but we actually have nothing
to do with it,
how
right.
we actually are going to get our call sign.
They brand you the way they feel you should be
Correct.
branded.
Yep.
Right?
Correct.
And so, so you joined the Navy to fly?
I actually joined the Navy right out of high school. So
Oh, okay.
I was an enlisted maintainer for just under 8 years. I was an aviation electronics technician. I worked on F-14s, F-18s, E-2s, S-3s, P-3s, C-130s. I worked on just about all of it. I was an eye-level guy, so I would get paid to pull my hair out doing the electronics. So if the pilot would gripe something and say, hey, this radar doesn't work, the display doesn't work, this is not working properly, the enlisted personnel attached to the squadron would pull that box out. They would send it to a depot level repair, or in my case, an intermediate repair if we could fix it. And then we would go all the way down to the weeds, finding, even if it was on a circuit card that we would pull out of this box, fix a very specific part, put it back in, run it, test it, and then it would be good to go the next time something like that failed. So I did that for just under about 8 years, deployed numerous ships as an enlisted sailor, and then put my degree in. The time and effort required to get the degree after work when I was stationed in California at Point Mugu at University of La Verne. So I'd work from 7 to 4 in the morning, and then I'd do my degree from 5 to 10 at night. It took me about 20 months to get a 4-year degree, and then I had a mentor that supported me all the way through and said, hey, where's your officer application? I said, well, sir, I'm not building an officer application. He said, I'm going to ask you again. Where's your officer application? I was like, yes, sir, it's 3 bags full. I'll get that done. So he motivated me to actually go prepare to become an officer, and I didn't think I would make that, as we're all our hardest critics. But I submitted the application, was lucky enough to get selected, went through flight school, ended up flying F-18 Super Hornets on the West Coast, deployed on the Carl Vinson, came back to the East Coast as an F-18 instructor at Virginia Beach in VFA 106, and then was lucky enough to get selected to the Blue Angels and fly there. So,
Folks,
pretty fun career.
If that ain't a story, you've never heard one. I mean, that's actually a fairly rare.
It is.
I mean, 8 years and then make the leap to officer. And and as we were chatting earlier, you obviously were deployed on a carrier for a while. Mm-hmm. I asked him how many traps he had, how many carrier landings, and he said, right, didn't have to think about it.
228.
228 traps.
228 times of scaring myself on the ship is probably the proper way to say it.
Right. So, I mean, I've interviewed some naval aviators, you know, some carrier pilots, and everyone I've ever met, they know that number of trap right off the top of their head. Like 20 years later, they know that number because it's an event. Mm-hmm. And so, and I also ask you then, you know, So day traps, night traps. Because day traps, you can kind of figure that out. Talk to me about night traps.
So night traps are specific in the event that every trap is different. Every single time you approach the ship at night is different. Even if it's clear weather at night and you have a total solid, beautiful moon up there, lighting up the water and you can see the ship plain as day, even that has its challenges associated with it because now you can actually see the ground rush. Because what people don't seem to be able to understand and be able to conceptualize is that when you're out there flying out on the water, nothing else is out there.
Right.
So there's no light pollution.
I mean, it's
there's
IFR,
no city,
baby.
There's no nothing. Even
Right.
if it's crystal clear, nothing but starlight out, you can't tell where the sky is and where the horizon starts,
Right.
where the water is, where it stops, and then the sky starts because it's pitch
It's instrument
black
flying
out there.
all the
So
way.
it's instrument flying all the way down to the last couple of seconds, and I give all the credit in the world to the landing signal officers that I've flown, keeping me safe as I'm flying aboard the ship because they definitely have their work cut out for them. Now, sometimes people kind of forget about this, but taxiing around airplanes, right? With aviators, what do? We apply power, we use the brakes to stop, and we use the rudders to kind of turn when we're taxiing around. Now in an AV context, now sometimes, because the ship is moving, right? How do you taxi an airplane around while your runway's sitting here doing this? Now, it's just a brakes game. So you've got your controller, he's sitting there saying, hold the brakes as the ship is coming up, off brakes, airplane rolls, brakes, stop, because there's not a lot of real estate on a flight deck, right? So that in itself has quite a bit of challenges associated just to move airplanes around the flight deck.
So, you know, it's funny. I've never heard anybody talk about that on the pitching deck, just how hard it is to taxi. Never thought about that.
Yep.
But I can see where that, because gravity, right?
It's gravity.
Hold the brakes.
And once again, when you take that same context that I just talked about it being pitch black outside, you can't tell that the ship is moving while you're taxiing the airplane around.
It's only your signalman.
It's only the thing that you can look at through the HUD is to see the HUD doing this. And then you have your stomach, you're like, wait a second, I think we're going down.
no.
And then you kind of feel the little G as the ship hits the wave, comes back up. You can't see anything. The only thing you see is two yellow wands moving you around because it's totally pitch black out
And
there.
you just believe that.
You believe-
don't believe anything else.
The faith
'cause
and
it's-
confidence that you put in your directors to taxi you around the flight deck, it's a beautiful symphony, movement of aircraft. And as the deployment goes on, the non-skid on the flight deck starts to get worn down. There's gas, hide fluid, props turning, engine noise, all kinds of things going on. It's a very dangerous place to be, and they do the best that I've ever seen. Obviously, it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect in aviation, right? But we strive for that every single day, and it's a beautiful thing to say as I look back now being retired flying for FedEx. I look back at that now and I say, that was beautiful to be able to do that successfully, safely. Obviously, I've had some aviation fun where things have happened, as most aviators can tell those stories, but it's an absolute beauty to look back on and say, I can't believe I was a part of it.
Wow, you know, and kudos to our Navy. I mean, let's face it, the aircraft carrier is the tip of the spear. I mean, it's the tip of the spear of the United States military in my mind. So let's start with thank you for your service, and because it just takes a lot of skill, effort, and
Finesse.
and so kudos. Now I know what you want to talk about, and I'm going to get there, but the audience don't get to hear from carrier pilots very often, and certainly Blue Angels.
Correct.
We got the Blue Angels here at Sun and Fun this year. How long did you fly with the Blue Angels?
So I was a part of the team 2016, 17, and 18. I was lucky enough to be number 6 when I flew here in 2017. So honored to be able to come back now, look as I'm a part of E3 Aviation with what we do, but also to see where the legacy of the Blue Angels have been and where they're going. It's beautiful. And one thing to point out is that the team just recently finished winter training. So this is a fairly new team, and every day they strive to get better. We debrief everything down to the nit-noid detail, hold each other accountable, and then go out and produce that once again tomorrow, the next day at a different city, at a different location. Watching it yesterday in the background and sitting there watching how the maintenance team works together with support personnel that it takes to put those jets in the air, as well as Fat Albert. We had a lot of Fat Albert issues when I was on the team because we were going from the older C-130 to the newer C-130. And this is the first time I've actually got to see the C-130J fly, and it was absolutely beautiful to watch how that works, watch the demonstration fly. I'm very impressed, and I'm honored to say that they're doing a great job.
So How did you get selected for that?
It's an application process. It's a full 360-degree interview that you do because the team wants to look at you and say, are you somebody that can communicate? Are you somebody that can motivate? And are you somebody that we can trust when we fly on your wing?
I would think trust is paramount.
Trust and confidence is huge. A lot of people ask, what's it like when you fly with the Blues? It's just like when you fly any other airplane. We're just going to do it a little closer, a little lower to the ground, and a little faster. I had a kid ask me yesterday, he said, how do you fly formation? So I was talking to this little crowd. Yesterday I said, well, if you've ever driven down the freeway, one thing to think about is don't ever look straight ahead. Find the car in the lane next to you and drive off of that car, even though the freeway is sitting here doing this, because it's all based off of Boss. When the sixth ship is flying together, there's a beautiful symphony of cadence through Boss's voice, through power, through turning the airplane and slowly pulling the airplane, because the team will continuously strive for excellence. Even though that'll never happen, every time we come back, we debrief down to the finite detail of maybe the zipper was down, or a pen wasn't in the right place, or we didn't fall in the right line, because we're a team, not a squadron.
Right.
We're a team.
So I've flown a little bit of formation, and flying lead sometimes is actually easier. Flying wing is intense, because it's like whatever this guy's doing, you got to do it off his wing, and it's dangerous.
It is.
I mean, you've got to really be confident in your stick and rudder and throttle skills. And then last year, I got to fly with the Texaco team, and they fly 300 extras or excess extras, whatever. And so I think I was in number 2 or 3 ship. But anyway, man, they were tight, and that was my first real experience of what is somewhat close to what the heck you guys are doing, but at much less speeds and probably not as tight. And so I have just an incredible appreciation for the skill level that goes into that.
Yep. And one thing that's worth noting is that with the Blue Angels, they fly with a 40-pound spring on the stick. So they will pull a spring out of the stick, and it will throw the stick forward. So while the team is flying, they're actually holding close to a 40-pound dumbbell's worth of strength just to keep the jet straight and level.
No kidding?
Yep.
Wow, why?
So if you can take away the null area and make it as precise as possible to where while the pilots are flying,
everywhere.
It's so tight that if they squeeze, that'll bring the jet up about an inch. If they unsqueeze, that'll let the jet down a little bit, just because there's so much tension on the stick, which allows us to get that close to one another with that trust and confidence that we were talking about.
So they always say great pilots, great hands.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why when you meet a Blue Angel and you shake their hand, they're ready to rip your arm off, because they've been holding a 40-pound dumbbell 2 and 3 times a day, sometimes 4 and 5 times a day when they transit to show sites, practice, shows, practice.
Yeah, I would think, like flying cross country to where you're going, that ends up being a lot of work.
Well, at some point, number 4 will say, ease it out to us. And at that point, when we have made the decision that we are away from visual range, we'll kind of take ourselves off the spring, spread out a little bit while we're transiting to another show site. But as we come back, generally speaking, through about that 10,000 feet, now we want to make sure that we have that very signature blue diamond and delta figuration that we have with all 6 of our airplanes. And then we'll come on the spring, and now we're doing exactly as I was talking about with that kind of freeway mentality, is that now we're flying on Boss's wing. No matter which position you are, you're flying on Boss's wing. Boss is taking 6 airplanes, sometimes 7, right, as we go through the city, making our way, lining up. If you picture flying any airlines, you can't sit there and turn the airplane on the dime, even though it's a fighting aircraft. Now there's 6 of them, and it's a beautiful symphony and a grace of moving the airplanes through the air to get lined up for whatever runway we're lining up for.
I've never heard it explained like that. I never knew that, and that's one for you, folks. I'm telling you what, you just heard a Blue Angel explain how they fly that tight, 40 pounds while they're doing that. Man, you got to be in some shape, right?
Yeah.
That's
well,
awesome.
A lot of that is contended to working out. There's a regiment that the team likes to do, because the Blue Angels don't wear G suits when they fly.
Oh,
in the
really?
Blue Jets.
And how high a G's you guys turning on those?
It can be 7.5. That's the max performance of the airplane, which is sustained 7.5 for quite a few seconds. So Obviously, there's videos out there of seeing people under G flying with the Blue Angels, and it is really an eye-opening experience when you spent most of your time as a fighter pilot flying with G protection,
right,
with these G suit pants.
Right.
And now you get into the airplane, which you're used to having
No
a
G
flight
suit.
bag.
Why no G suit?
You're used to having all this gear on you, and now the only thing that you have is your flight suit that you wear while you go
Why
in
no
there.
G suit?
So, because we're a center stick airplane, if we had a G suit while we pull G, flying that close to an airplane, our G suit would inflate. Right? Does that make sense?
And move the stick.
So, yep.
Gotcha.
Every inch counts when you're getting that close to another airplane.
Yeah, no
you want
doubt
to make
about
sure
it.
that you have everything licked to where you're like, I don't need anything that's going to be a surprise to me, and that's one of the reasons why.
All right, so let's get to why you're here. Talk to me about E3 Aviation. I know you're a big sponsor at Sun and Fun. We're down to probably 5 or 6 minutes, which,
yeah.
So tell us all about E3. What's going on?
It's an honor to be a part of this organization. I definitely feel passionate about what E3 is.
What is
E3?
E3?
E3 is empower, educate, entertain. That's where the term E3 comes from.
Okay.
It's a platform built by aviators for the future of aviation, whether that be in a mentorship and training, whether that be in an education, maybe also in an entertainment piece, because nobody wants to sit through a class and just watch to get taught something. They also need to be motivated and entertained as to why aviation is what it is, which is exactly what we have here at Sun and Fun, right? So as you go out there, you can see the airplanes fly, but you also have classes going on. You also have metal bending classes going on, talking about engines, talking about brakes, propellers, whatever is out there, because it's entertainment, plus it's education, plus it's empowerment. So what we have is it's a platform to where we can teach, train, continue to build what we all love as aviators in aviation. We're just a small branch of what E3 is. There's also E3 outdoors, camping, overland, firearms, off-road. There's a big selection of opportunity out there just in the E3 world. Here at Sun and Fun, as the title sponsor for Sun and Fun, what we really do like is that a lot of our proceeds that we get this week at Sun and Fun, we'll be turning right back around and pushing that into the ACE program here at Sun and Fun. So it's an honor for us to be able to support and continue to make aviation what it is.
So that's youth focused.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So I do a series here called Teaching Youth Aviation, and going around to different EAA chapters and showing that they're building airplanes and teaching ground school and even flying sims and stuff. And so that's what that's all about.
That's what it's all about. And the unique thing about what E3 is that our team of experts that we have is that we've got, because everybody is motivated on different things, right? Some people want to be military aviation, some people want to be maintainers, some people want to be educators, some people want to fly in the airlines, some people want to fly fighters. So we have John Slickbaum, prior Thunderbird pilot.
Okay.
We have John Rain Waters, who is prior F-16 demo pilot. We've got a missionary bush pilot that is one of my really good friends. His name's Ryan. I love talking to him and hearing his story because it's so different than what we have here. We've got maintainers that are with us. We've got all kinds of people and enthusiasts and influencers that will go right in the niche of what maybe somebody wants to learn to do. Maybe they don't want to be a pilot. Maybe they want to be a maintainer. Or maybe they want to be a sim instructor or something like that. But that's where that empowerment piece comes in, to be like, look, we actually have quite a selection and quite a wide array of educators that we have for mentor-based to just say, hey, look, here's my story. This is how challenging it was for me. It's not like I fell into a golden spoon or something like that. I had to work for it.
Work your butt off.
And one of the things that we love to tell through our E3 stories is that I've never met somebody that swung for the fence their first time and got a grand slam and became immediately successful.
Nope.
Because we all have gone through some failure, some form of humbling experience to where, hey, slowly but surely you're sharpening that blade to where then you have reached the top and now it's your turn to give back. Because if we stop training, we stop educating, then aviation is going to slowly fall off the map.
How does someone get involved with E3?
So we have a tent over here at the chalets. Come on by. We can definitely talk more about it in that case. We've got a website. You can go to E3 Aviation Association. Look that up. That'll also tell you the story about what we do here at E3.
E3educationassociation.com.org.
So E3aviationassociation.com.
.com. E3aviationassociation.com. And so anybody can get involved with you guys.
Anybody. It's a subscription based because it's a special access to looking inside of what the company is, but it is definitely worth coming over, seeing what it is. We have interviews going nonstop. We had Michael Goulian over there earlier this morning. I interviewed Ryan, the missionary bush pilot, yesterday. We had Tom Cruise and Iceman came over to come hang out there for a little bit.
Is that where the kids are building airplanes over here?
We are on the chalet line, so basically right at Show Center. So right where the comm card is for the Blue Angels, we are directly behind that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I may have to come over there this afternoon.
Come on by. We'd love to introduce.
I mean, I'm very interested in that. I've been promoting that. I mean, I got in the EAA to fly Young Eagles to get kids interested in aviation. That was my passion, right?
And ultimately, what is passionate for us is obviously our veterans and our children as well. So if we can give back for the veterans and we can help them in any way that we can as far as aviation is concerned, and also through the children, we are working on doing everything we can as we go forward for the education of children. So it's awesome. We had a kid yesterday in the interview, probably the youngest kid in the room, actually. He may have been maybe 8 years old. Bunch of room full of people, of adults and this and that and whatever. And we said, hey, who's got a question? The kid stood up and he said, how can I be like you guys? I know if I was 8 years old in a room full of adults, I don't know if I'd be the one to raise my hand, but we said, buddy, you're already doing it. If you're not scared or nervous at all to stand up in a room full of adults and ask a question on public, like, the kid did a great job. I will never forget him doing that.
Well, Feed, we're out of time, man. I could sit and talk to you for another hour, and I'm probably going to come over. You going to be over there this afternoon?
You bet. Yes, sir.
I'm probably going to ride over there and spend some time with you. I am Joel Hargis with the Florida Aviation Network here at Sun and Fun 2023. Stay tuned. We got more shows. We'll be here tomorrow. Don't forget to check us out.